the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest, one of her advocacy helping kids, teens, and families navigate the ups and downs of a childhood, adolescence, dreams, and their social worlds. And of course, award winning author, no other than Ms. Jessica Speer. Welcome, Miss Jessica on Abstract Essay. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Daniel. I'm Jessica Speer, and I'm the author of several books for kids and preteens. So the age group I write for is about 8 to 13 years old.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Jessica. Thank you. Let's start with the biggest pre sale mistake. What is the single most damaging mindset or assumption a business owner brings to selling process that costs of money from day one?
Hmm. So the question is the biggest pre-sale mistake? Is that right?
Yes, please. Yes.
Um, for me personally, I actually haven't spent a lot of time focusing on pre-sale. My books are traditionally published, which I'm grateful for because that means I don't actually have to focus myself personally on the sales, so I can focus on the writing part of the book. So I don't have a great answer for that because I don't actually focus on pre-sales myself personally.
hmm So let's talk about all your books. The writing process itself. Let's begin with the middle school. What is all about?
Sure. Well, this book grew out of I spent a year in middle school talking with middle schoolers, specifically seventh graders. And I was asking them, what is some of the trickiest things that you've come across as a middle school student? And after talking to hundreds of students, I came up with the top 10 things that they told me. And I wanted to write a book in a way that could explore these things, but in a fun way. So I explored these 10 tricky things that middle school students told me, but there's choose your own ending stories so they can read about these scenarios, but choose how they might respond to those scenarios. A lot of quotes from real students and a lot of fun facts. So this book really dives into the trickier parts of middle school, but in a fun and engaging way.
Fun and engaging way. I like that, miss. So your books cover a wide range from digital citizenship and friendship with the state, pride for toddlers. What are the common thread or core mission that ties all of your work together for young people and families?
Sure. Well, my background is in social sciences, and I'm really interested in this developmental phase of the preteen years. So I focus on helping kids navigate the challenges that happen to come up in those years. So friendships sometimes get trickier during the preteen years. This is also the time of life where many preteens get a cell phone. So I've got a book on that as well, how to build safe and healthy digital habits. And then, as I already talked about, the middle school years can sometimes be tricky years too.
Yes, definitely. And Miss Jessica, how do your background and experiences lead you to write such a practical toolkit style guides for navigating modern childhood?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I've got a background in social sciences, and I'm just really curious about human development. So that's what my background is. I do a lot of research, and all of my books actually grow out of direct work that I've done with kids. My first book, which is called BFF or NRF, NRF stands for Not Really Friends, and it's a guide to friendship. And this book actually grew out of a friendship program that I ran for preteens. So that's what I'd like to do is work directly with youth and then take some of those insights and put them into a book for a broader reach.
A broader reach. And congratulations for doing that, Miss Jessica. You write for vastly different age groups. How does your process change when speaking to a toddler's parent in 101st world versus speaking directly to a middle schooler in a safety goggles advice?
Yeah, most of my books are written for that preteen age range, so 8 to 12. But what I've found is parents often will read the book too, because the book offers a guide as to some of the challenges their kids might be facing during that stage of life. And it also offers some common language so they can really talk about it as a family. For instance, talking about some friendship struggles, and talking about, common things that happen in middle school. So the books are written for preteens, but adults often end up reading them too.
The phone book, Digital Citizenship and Safety, Miss Jessica. In the phone book, you frame the phone as a tool to make the world better. Beyond safety, how can we guide kids to be a digital contributors are not just consumers?
Right. And so that you're teaching kids more awareness about just the tech business model is where I begin. So I think it's really important for teens and kids to know why tech companies want them staring at their screen. So I actually talk about advertising and algorithms and a lot of things, tech companies do to that keep all of us engaged in our devices so that they can start to build healthy habits themselves. So that by understanding kind of how this all works, they become more informed consumers of tech themselves.
More informs, yes. What What's one piece of advice in the phone book that most surprise parents or challenges the typical just don't get in trouble conversation?
I do talk a lot about ways to use phones as a force for good. There's the really powerful communication tools. So when speaking to preteens, they have a choice as to how they want to communicate with their friends, and that takes some practice. But how do they want to what? How do they want to post on social media? How do they want to respond to group texts? And it takes time and practice, but they have some power to really communicate in a way that does make the world better.
Make the world go round for sure. So, Miss Jessica, what apps and trends changing monthly? How do you write a book about tech and won't feel outdated next year? What timeless principles do you focus on?
Yeah, that's tricky, of course, because apps are changing all the time. So I focused a lot on just fundamental and basic knowledge, especially how we conduct ourselves online and things to watch out for. So in this book, I talk about FOMO, so the fear of missing out, which is an experience that everybody has, especially kids and teens online. I talk about stranger danger, cyberbullying, digital drama, so things that no matter what platform that kids and teens are going to be on, they're probably going to come across some of these experiences.
Miss Jessica, in BFF or NRF, you give girls a framework to categorize friendships. Why is labeling a friendship a helpful, empowering tool rather than just judgmental one?
Yeah, that's a great question. And one tool that has been so helpful for kids that have read that book is called the friendship pyramid. And this is how I kind of categorize it. But instead of judging, it kind of just helps to explain the lay of the land. For instance, at the very top of the pyramid, I have close friends. But explain there that these friends are really hard to find. Most of us have just a couple close friends. And sometimes we might have a stage in our life where we don't even feel like we have a close friend. And so you're just creating the space that is true sometimes, because what I've found as I work from kids and teens, they all have been there. They've all been in a place where they feel like they might not had a close friend. Then there's friends, and I'm really general with the term friends because there could be in-person friends, it could be online friends. Then below that is acquaintances. But the category that kids find most interesting, I created it called NRF, not really friends. And this is just a category to understand when we have a relationship that doesn't feel very healthy. So, what are the qualities of not really friends, a friendship that doesn't feel very healthy or supportive? And so they can keep an eye out for that too and try to improve or change that situation.
Miss Jessica, how has a social and constant connectivity transformed the classic childhood friendship drama, and what new skills do girls need now?
Mm, so your friendship drama is always there. But now that kids are online so much, it's transitioned online. So sometimes text group chats or social media can be a place for what I call digital drama. And this is really challenging for kids to navigate because they're not face to face. They often are miscommunications and misunderstandings that are happening online. And sometimes people don't say what they would say in person online. So sometimes they can get really mean. So just talking about that, giving kids tools how to navigate those situations, how to back out of those situations when they start to get really mean and uncomfortable. So just being really clear how to navigate digital drama because it actually is as a new dynamic in kids' friendships now.
What's the most courageous but necessary conversation you coach young readers to have with friends who is treating them poorly, Miss Jessica?
Hmm. One in that book I've got friendship truths, and one of the friendship truths is we teach others how we want to be treated by speaking up. So it's important in those situations when we aren't being treated the way we want to be treated is to speak up. And then if that doesn't help the situation, we don't have to stay in friendships where we're not being treated well. We can take a break because that's not what friendship is about. So teaching kids those skills of speaking up, trying to problem solve, but then also it's okay to move out of relationships that are really unhealthy.
Middle school safety goggles advice navigating adolescence. The middle school title promises to explore the weird stuff. What is the weirdest or most awkward topic you cover, and why was it essential to include it without sugarcoating?
One thing when I was researching this book and talking with seventh grade students, they wanted to talk a lot about crushes and dating because this is a brand new experience for them. And it's really awkward, but it's also really kind of exciting and interesting. So I really unpack that in this book. Some students are way into crushes, some are not at all because they're just not there developmentally. They're not interested. So sharing that all those experiences are totally fine. Even the awkwardness of having a crush is totally fine and normal. So just really exploring that out in the open and honestly with kids.
Middle school is a time of intense peer pressure, Miss Jessica. What's your most counterintuitive piece of advice for a kid who wants to be their own person but also desperately wants to fit in?
And that's really hard at that age because they wanna fit in so badly. So they feel a lot of pressure to conform to their peers. So that's natural. That's a natural state of development. But I think just encouraging them to be themselves, and when they are themselves, they will connect with the kids that they have a lot in common with. So it takes some time. There's a lot of changes, lots of ups and downs, but over the years, I've seen kids really do develop the confidence and start to become themselves, especially when they get to the high school years.
Miss Jessica, you tackle gossip, cliches, criticism, and grades. Which of these areas do you find causes kids the most silent anxiety, and what's your first step to managing it?
Hmm. I think fitting in and belonging causes a lot of stress and anxiety. Kids look around and it looks like everybody has a good friend, maybe except for them, or maybe their friendships are in the midst of changes. And given the stage developmentally, this is a stage where kids really do want to fit in and connect with their friends. So that causes a lot of anxiety. And that's what actually prompted me to start working on this and writing my books is to offer some support there because a lot of kids feel anxiety based on what's happening in their social lives.
Miss Jessica, as an author, well, award winning author, what are your short term and long term goals?
Actually, I'm working on another degree right now. I'm working on a I've got a master's in social sciences. I'm working on a master's in mental health counseling because I'd like to expand my work to also work individually with students that are struggling. So that's what I'm working on now. In addition to hopefully writing some more books.
Yes, good luck to your goals, Miss Jessica, and looking forward for more success. And please do come over and book one review or abstract essay, and let's talk about your new book. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there? One, to be award-winning author like you.
Hmm. I think just keep writing from the heart, writing what really matters to you and what inspires you. That's all we can do.
Yes, and stop procrastinating, people. If you have the passion to write. And who knows, you will be like Miss Jessica, award winning author. And thank you for that advice, Miss Jessica. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Oh, that books that influence me?
Yes, please.
Oh my gosh, I read a lot of books on raising kids and development, childhood development. So one of my favorite books is by Dr. Lisa D'Amore, and it's raising socially healthy kids. So I always recommend her books, Dr. Lisa D'Amore. She's got several books that really dive into adolescence and raising healthy teens.
Yes, thank you for that recommended book, Miss Jessica. If a parent could take only one lesson from each of your books to focus on this year, what would you hope those four takeaways would be?
So four takeaways for a parent.
Yes, please.
One would be, when your kids come to you, just pause to really listen. Really try to hear what they're going through, help them navigate their emotions. I feel like sometimes that's one of the biggest jobs we can do as a parent is to really help kids navigate difficult emotions because that's a learned skill. So we can help them just learn to manage difficult emotions in healthy ways. So listening, helping them navigate big emotions when possible. Don't offer advice. Be there as a support and guide, but see what sort of ideas they might come up with, because that gives them the confidence to start to problem solve on their own.
Confidence indeed. If a parent could take only one lesson from each of your books to focus more about parenting, what it would be?
Hmm. I would say as far as you know digital devices goes, one of the biggest things I see the struggles with kids is they're so tired. So many kids, over 60% of preteens have phones in their bedrooms at night, which is really impacting their sleep. And so once they're not getting enough sleep, that ripples into all areas of their life. It ripples into their academics, their schoolwork, their friendships, their mood. So, if there's one thing I think all of us can do as parents is to make sure our kids and teens are getting the sleep that they need to be getting.
Enough sleep. Yes. Their struggles because of screen playing all day long. As an author, Miss Jessica, how do you get into a mindset of your readers from self-conscious teen to an overwhelmed middle schooler to ensure the advice truly resonates and does not feel like it's coming from an adult?
Yeah, that's so important, especially for the genre I'm writing. So I do that by working a lot with kids and making sure I'm hearing them and their stories are represented. And then I also have beta readers that are kids and teens. So before any of my books get published, I make sure to run those books by young people to make sure they connect.
Yes, connect and connect. So, what is the most rewarding feedback you've received from a young reader who used advice from one of your books in a real life situation?
I think what is so rewarding to me is when the book offers some relief because it shows them that they're not alone. The fact that there's a book that has stories about situations they're currently struggling with shows that, hey, I'm not the only one struggling with this. So I've heard that many, many times from kids that I work with, that they just appreciate that they're not the only ones. This is actually a lot of kids are experiencing these struggles so they can see themselves in these books, and that's so helpful to them.
Miss Jessica, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101, love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 is in fourth season, and Science 101, Sex 101 in second season, Ama Baby Podcast Law 101, Mental Health 101, Bible Verses 101, and coming this December, Entrepreneur 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Jessica, looking ahead, what is the next gap you see in the guidance available to kids and parents that you feel compelled to feel?
I'm actually working on another book that deals with anxiety. I know we've talked about anxiety on this conversation, so I'm working on a book that helps kids and teens navigate anxiety.
Yes, and Miss Jessica, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Thank you, thank you, thank you through your books. So, can you please invite our listeners to support all your books?
Oh, yeah. And thank you for hosting me, Dan. You've been busy. Look at all those podcasts you're hosting. Thank you so much for spotlighting authors and writers. I appreciate it. And the easiest way to find me is my website, which is Jessica Spear, SPER.com.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Jessica Speer, because if you support her, for sure more and more empowering books like this to come. Not only books, award winning books. So, Miss Jessica, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel.
More to come, people. See you soon.